Hey, in today's video, I want to talk about why I got into trading, and I'd like you to then think about your motivation uh, to look into trading, because I've worked my ass off my whole life. I've built things, fixed things, led people. That's why the lights are on, but it's not how I'm getting out. If hard work was enough, every welder and laborer out there would be retired by 50. You see, I don't trade for fun. I trade for leverage. I'm trading so I don't have to work till I'm 70. Trading futures let me use my brain, not just my body. Every chart I study, every backtest I log, it's one more brick in my exit plan. You might work 10 years on a job. You might get a plaque. Make 10 years of good trades and you buy your life back. Oh yeah, look at that, I made a rhyme. You see, I decided to stop waiting on pensions and started to build my own plan. And you can too, and you should think about, what's really driving you to want to learn how to trade. Maybe it's you recognize that, you know, much like I was, you've got a job, you've got a decent job that you enjoy. At least I hope you enjoy it. And it's paying the bills and it's taking care of the family. But at the end of the month, there's not a whole lot left. Even with disciplined saving, it's a struggle. And I gotta believe, and I'm sure it's what you're searching for, but there's more to life. If you're working for an hourly wage, you're trading time for money. I mean, it's just that simple. The only option you've got to bring home more cash, on your paycheck, every week or every other week, is to increase your skills to make yourself more valuable for the company that you're working for, so that you produce more results. And and then in turn the company will reward you by paying you more, or giving you other opportunities, or whatever motivates you to continue to produce results. Oftentimes it's a blend. Most places it's just a little bit more money on your paycheck. And it provides some relief, short-term relief. And but there's a better way. And if you're watching this video, I'm here to tell you, you found it. Trading is a better way. It can set you free from the financial burdens, that you may have in your life. But it's not cheap. It's gonna cost an investment of time from you. Bunch of cows by the road. I hope they don't wander onto the highway. Anyway, learning to trade's not cheap. It's not gonna cost you a bunch of money. Don't get me wrong. It's gonna cost an investment of your time to learn some skills, so that you can confidently, place trades in the market, and extract out some winnings on a consistent basis, and continue to increase the size of your trading account, so you can increase your position size. It's scaling. It's scaling a business. It's building a business, but it's going to take some time. In the beginning, you need to focus on learning how to trade, and that's a broad that's a broad learning statement right there. Learning how to trade. The mechanics of entering a trade, are fairly easy. There's some nuances between trading platforms, but they're nothing you can't overcome. That's the easy part, and then of course, you'll want to have a set of rules, that you follow uh, in identifying a trade setup, and then you just execute. And on the surface, that's all it takes. And then you use your plan and you rinse and repeat, and over a period of time, your trading account grows. Sounds pretty easy, doesn't it? Well, from a mechanical standpoint, it's just that easy. Um, but then there's reality, and the reality of the whole thing is that the mental mindset that you bring to the table. Uh, when you're looking to identify a trade setup, or you're looking to enter a trade, when you're just learning, it's paramount to whether or not you will see success or failure. And again, that concept is just that easy. It's just that simple. Black and white. But there's a lot that goes into that. So let's talk about that for a little bit. When you go to work every day, do you know what you're going to do when you get there? Do you have any idea what's in store for you? Maybe it's cut and dry. Let's phrase the question a different way. When you get a new job, or I'm sure everyone can remember the first day of school jitters. Why do you think you have anxiety or nervousness around the first day at a new job, or first day of school? I think if you answered, you don't really know what to expect on your first day, you're probably correct. And trading for a new trader is no different. If you approach trading or learning to trade, entering your first couple trades, entering your first 20 trades, with a mindset of you're not quite sure what to expect, or it feels like you're guessing, or you're hopeful, or maybe you're absolutely certain what's going to happen because someone gave you the secret hot tip. What I would say is you might as well go to the bookstore and buy a book on playing the table games in Vegas, because you're approaching the game of trading like a gambler. And what you should be doing is approaching trading much like you would if you were building a business. Because if you go back to the beginning of the video, how I mentioned hard work pays the bills. Hard work's what's keeping the lights on. Building a business is what'll set you free. And trading can be that business. You got little to no overhead, monthly. You don't have to maintain an inventory of products that people want to buy. You don't have to advertise. You don't have to hire employees. All of the things that go into starting a business. It's just you. It's you, but it's you against the world. Because trading is a global business, and that's why there's so much opportunity, for retail traders like us who approach the game with a strategy that produces more wins than losers. Let's be honest. That's really the name of the game, right? Learning how to trade, where the outcome is you win more times than you lose, because you're going to lose. That's just part of it. There's no trading strategy or methodology out there that is 100% accurate. Now there's certainly ways of approaching trading that have a much higher winning percentage rate than others, and that's really what you're on a quest to find. And again, that's not the difficult part. I'm sure if you're watching this video, then I'm sure you've watched others on trading, learning how to trade, whatever. Read a book or two on the subject, and while I haven't investigated or tried out, a large number of trading strategies, I got to believe that at any point in time they'll all work. It's just, some are built around frequency, and some require patience. And I'm here to tell you, in my experience, the easiest systems to learn and the easiest systems to win with, are oftentimes the hardest to execute, because they require patience. And that's a difficult thing to come to terms with, because there can be a lot of excitement around trading. When you're new and you're learning, it's exciting. The prospect of making money while you're doing something else, because you place a trade and it's out there, and you're able to go about your day. That's what you should be striving for. Anyway, that prospect, creates an emotional response in you, and it's one of excitement, and the prospect, like I said, the prospect of making money. But it can also quickly become one of despair when the market is going against you and you're seeing your profit diminish or go into the red. But there's steps you can take to I wouldn't say eliminate that, because they're natural human responses with it, but you can certainly reduce it drastically by how you approach the game of trading. Getting back to the first day of work or the first day of school analogy, I would argue that you're probably a little light in the confidence department. Uh, you know, mainly because you probably don't quite know what to expect. I mean, it's the first day. It's a new experience. You know, what's going to happen? And you're going to show up, and you're going to navigate through it, but you don't really know what to expect. Um, you think that's really a conducive way to approach trading? Um, I would say no. And what can you do about it? Well, once you get to the point where you've got that strategy, or you've got a test trading idea that you've come across, you've purchased, someone's told you about, you learned about on a video in YouTube, you need to test it. And and how do you do that? Um, there's a concept called backtesting. I mean, there's also forward testing, but if you want a quick down and dirty look at how this trading idea may have performed in the past, you test it against historical data. Uh, you know, and it's pretty easy to do in this day and age of all of the electronic uh, charting packages that are out there, uh, which by the way are free. Your trading broker oftentimes will supply a trading software package for free. You may have to pay for a data feed if you're wanting accurate end of day data, or intraday data, depending on whatever your need is. I personally you know don't need real-time intraday data. End of day data is fine. I use NinjaTrader because I trade futures, and it's a simple platform, powerful platform, but simple. Um, and the data feed's only $12 a month. Uh, so if you don't have one, you may want to check that one out. It's pretty simple. Download it on your computer, and then you've got a charting package, and you can use that charting package that's on there to backtest your idea. Um, I've got several videos on the channel that kind of walk you through it in depth. They're more academic based. Sitting down in a little spot in my office, and I filmed them. Uh, you know, Not to digress too much, but the reason I started filming these videos is so that my kids could learn from somebody that's had some success, and they should be able to trust when they get to a point in their life where it becomes an interest. The videos and the lessons will be memorialized on YouTube forever, not going anywhere. Um, and I enjoyed making them so much, I continue to do it because I know there's other people out there that would benefit from it. So, check them out. There's a wealth of information in there. Keep in mind, I'm not a professional videographer or fancy YouTuber. I'm just a guy sharing his knowledge. So it's free. Check it out. Anyway, going back to backtesting, I would recommend when you're beginning that you look at charts on a daily time frame. That means that every bar, every candlestick that you see on the chart represents a full day's trading session, 24 hours in time. And, go back a year. Set your chart up where you've got at least a year's worth of candles available to view, and then start on the right hand side of the chart and start advancing it one day at a time until you see your trading strategy that you're wanting to test appear. And then, you know, you're essentially entering a simulated trade at that point. And write it all down. You know, whether you've got a notebook or you use an Excel spreadsheet. I use an Excel spreadsheet. It's pretty easy. You know, I jot down the commodity that I'm looking at, or the stock I'm looking at. You know, the date. So things that I'm interested in. You know, is it currently in an uptrend or is it in a downtrend? Is my trading setup a long trade or a short trade? You know, what is my entry price? What is my profit target? And what is my stop loss? And then I'll make a note of you know, the details around the strategy or the rules that you're checking off to identify that trade setup, and then advance it a day at a time until, you know, either two things happen: you win the trade or you get stopped out, and rinse and repeat, and do that for that year in time. It's going to take you, you know, depending on what your strategy is, it could take you an hour, you know, it could take you 3 hours, and jot down all the information, and then evaluate the results. You know, how many winners did you have? How many losers did you have? You know, the goal you should be shooting for is a high 80s to 90% win rate, because with proper risk management, that's that stop loss. You'll have a recipe that could change your life. You know, you will have in your hands your own personal ATM machine that you can use to execute trades in the market that will set you free. And again, that's a high level overview. It's just that simple. You know, now you may not achieve that win rate, you know, when you first start backtesting your system for a number of reasons. The one most obvious reason is the strategy is just not that good. That's okay. That's why you're testing it. The other reason that you'll experience is that in hindsight, you didn't really follow it. And that's because, you know, you didn't fully understand it, or, you know, there's a lot going on and a lot going through your mind, even when you're backtesting. You know, in the beginning when you're first learning how to do this, and it's all about reps. You know, how do you learn a new skill? You know, it's reps. Why is there football practice? Why is there baseball practice, wrestling practice, cheerleading practice? You know, why do doctors have an internship? Why do skilled trades have an apprenticeship? It's reps. Reps is where you build muscle memory in your brain. And, you know, the good thing is that you don't have to lose money in the market, real money in the market, to learn if you've got a strategy that has the potential to win time after time. You can do it by backtesting. So, you know, that's really all you got to do. and refine it. Work on refining it until you get to that comfortable win rate that you're looking for, and then move on to the next chapter. And the next chapter is going to be, learning to execute with precision and without emotion. Because really, if you're going to work every day, the last thing you need is the distraction of, what in the hell is my trade doing? I wonder how my trade's doing. Because, that's, if you're like me and you work in a profession like I do, that's the last thing you need, is that distraction. And that really, what really needs to happen is through the time that you invest in backtesting and learning to trust your system, you're building confidence in your system. You're building confidence in your approach to trading, and there's less emotion involved. There'll always be some, but less emotion involved. So, that's what you need to do. There's a lot of information out there. One book I would recommend you read. I've mentioned some others in previous videos, but one book I would recommend that you read is Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. It's it's a book that goes into great detail about kind of what we've been talking about here. It's how to build within yourself the mental framework to become a disciplined trader. And that's all you need. Some education in the beginning, build confidence in your system by backtesting it, and then building the discipline in yourself to execute when you see your trade strategy appear. Showing up every day. And why is that important? Well, a lot of reasons, but what came to mind when I thought of it was, if you don't show up every day, you may miss your trading strategy, and then the next day or the day after, when you come back to your chart, you see that it appeared, and then you've got a new set of emotional responses that you gotta work through. And there's the fear of missing out. That's a huge one. Your trade setup appeared. The trade's moving in the right direction, or heck, you may have already won it. In theory, had you entered it. And then you're fighting a decision around whether or not you should chase the market. And what I would say is, no, don't trade the market. You screwed up, you made a mistake, you missed your opportunity. Don't try to alter the outcome by deviating away from your strategy that you've already backtested. If you miss an opportunity, hey, you know what? The market's been open for over 100 years, and it'll be open tomorrow. So wait for the next one. Don't chase the market. The next trade's right around the corner. You got to have patience to wait for it. So you got to show up every day. If you're trading like a business, then your business needs to have hours that it's open, and stick to it. All right, folks. Well, I'm pulling into the gate at work. Enjoyed making this video. Another good talk. Hope you like it. Drop a comment down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's something that you want to talk about specifically. Have any questions? Yeah, I'm here to help. Just another guy on the same path you're on. Maybe just further along than you are currently, but you'll get there. Keep watching the videos, do your homework, invest in yourself. With that, I'm going to sign off. See you on the next clip.